Welcome to Amma Human podcast. Today's podcast is going to feature Anna Tsui. She is a coach living in Texas, and she does intuitive business coaching. So she helps people tap into their inner resources, and she has a fantastic book, which we talk about, Shadow Magic. And some of the things that we highlight in today's podcast are removing cords, like cutting cords, which if you know what that is, you know what that is. And if you don't, tune in. We also talk about fear and distinguishing the voice of the saboteur and different questions you can ask yourself, taken directly from her book, which is really poignant right now, given the environment that's happening at a national level with this whole Asian hate, this like stuff that's bubbling up in these different cases of hate crime that's going on. And Anna has a really great perspective and angle on this, where we talk about, and she's brought up this conversation around healing artists who are using and leaning on healing arts from the East or from Asia as a really important time for everyone to sort of lean in, get involved, and speak up, especially if this is part of your work, your livelihood. I myself utilize traditional Chinese medicine within the body talk modality that I use. And I also practice pranic energy, which is a traditional Chinese medicine energy work as well. So I thought it was really poignant, really well timed. I couldn't believe the way she said it in such a loving, non-judgmental way, but a really great conversation to be had. And since we spoke and did this interview, she was asked to speak at the White House on Asian hate with the AAPI. So I hope you'll tune in. I would love to hear comments, anything that you have to say to add to the conversation, as well as if you find this meaningful, please share it for both, her benefit, my benefit, but also for others who maybe aren't thinking about it this way yet. And let us know if you need any help or guidance along your path, and subscribe, like, and share it. Thanks so much, you guys. I hope you enjoy it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Amma Human podcast. I'm Megan Marini, and I'll be your host in conversations, all things integrative therapy. The more progressive, the better. We'll cover conscious-based medicine, working through trauma, the power of being in the wilderness, connecting in an inclusive way in community, and stories of miraculous healing. So I'm also going to be goofball and have some fun. So tune in, enjoy, and get down with the future. So please follow the channel, share the work with someone who you think will benefit, and we would love to hear from you if you have any comments and anything to add to the conversation, of course. And to keep the conversation going, please follow me on Instagram. It's just my name, Megan Marini, and join the private Facebook group over at Amma Human on Facebook. It's just AMMAHUMAN, and we will see you there. Thanks so much. How's my hair?
Fabulous.
Fuzzy. 1982. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We have Anna Tsui, who is a world-renowned coach. She works with transformation. She works with very high-performing intellectuals, very logic-based people, and helps them break into their potential, open their heart space, and connect with their audience in a bigger way. And I've known her for a few years now, and I consider her a dear friend and a true trailblazer. And I am beyond honored to have you with us today, Anna.
Same here, Megan. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen each other in so long physically, so it's good to connect here.
Yes, and I feel like we're on the tail end of COVID, I hope, but I feel like the whole thing that's going on right now is sort of a post-Trump sort of wave of hate. And I think it's amazing that the timing sort of lined up for us to have this conversation where you're doing all of this really cool and sort of graceful work around the conversation, which is so helpful because people often spin out into their worst selves and get angry, and then they don't even realize they're part of the anger, the hate thing. So it's like, how do we create change as healers, as coaches, as people that are holding space for others to process trauma? I think will be one of our sort of threads in the conversation today, as well as talking about your amazing book, Shadow Magic, which is
Nice.
such a great read. You could just read it over and over again for the next 10 years, which is what I'll do.
Which you can find a quote by Megan Marini in too.
Yay, totally. Yeah. So I'd love to start just a little bit about you personally, like where you grew up, where you live now, a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I was born on a farm in southern China in Guangzhou. And I believe we had like a bunch of sugarcane, and I just remember a bunch of ducks for some reason, right? And we had a well, and it was very idyllic, right? It was very like peaceful. And that was post, it was kind of like post um, the Cultural Revolution. So people were a little bit jaded. There was kind of this fear of, where is this country going? And then, of course, China went into this big boom economy. Well, we left before then, and we went to Boston, which is where most of my friends and family still are, which is how you and I met, Megan. And currently, I live right outside of Austin, Texas. So no one that I know actually in Massachusetts has ever been to Texas. So I just want to tell all of you listening that it is a legit place, right? There are cowboys, but also it's kind of just like Boston too, but a lot more polite. So that's where I am right now.
That's great. I have been to Texas. I actually have been there.
That's right. You have. Yeah.
A
You're one
few
of the rare
times.
ones.
A few times. Yeah. So I love it. It's really cool that you've ended up in Texas too. I think from China to Boston to Texas, you're definitely international.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure.
Yeah. So I love the post that you put up the other day, and just this conversation around being a lineage holder, as you mentioned, for Asian healing arts. And what would you say that if somebody is practicing in that space, like traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, I'm doing pranic energy work, even Reiki, um, massage you even listed. I'm certified in Thai yoga massage. Like there's so
There
many
you
there's so
go.
many healing arts from the space. What would you suggest to folks that are really processing this and maybe are not Asian in descent but are here embedded in America and not knowing what to do? I think is really what's probably going on with most folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I am connected to the healer space, right? Just like you, Megan. And I have friends who are really connected to the activism space. And when the shootings happened, and even before then, when there was a huge rise of crimes against Asian looking people, right? That's basically like if you look Asian, right, you're going to be a target. And I actually have a lot of family in Quincy, as you know, and there've been a lot of instances on their street, like elderly Asian people getting beat up and mugged. There was a 69-year-old man at the train station at Squantum, West Squantum, and he was attacked and he got his lunch taken away from him. Like, it's just like so ridiculous and so sad. And I don't consider myself an activist, right? I'm like a lot of people. It's like when there's a lot of energy towards negativity, like I want to be away from that energy. And I'm in the healer community. And what I realized was when all this stuff was happening, I wasn't seeing anything in my community. And the thing is, these women, right? And there was one man, there's like these women who were specifically targeted were healers. Like they were body workers, they were healers. And I was just kind of
Right.
confused, like, why aren't people saying anything, right? And I think it's because inherently as healers, we're kind of insular, right? We do our thing. And there is like a bigger conversation that we can be part of, that we are leaders of. And especially if you are part of the healing arts that come in some form, right, from the East, from Asia, from Asian culture or wisdom or traditions. I think that sometimes we just forget, like, it's like, well, I've been doing acupuncture, or I'm a feng shui consultant, and I do Vedic astrology, or I'm an essential oil, like, I'm in this thing. And it's like, chances are you kind of only see people who look like you, right? Doing yoga or whatever it is. And you just get like, this is my little bubble. But this is, I think, part of the reason why I'm speaking up is to really show that we're really all connected, and to make that connection with people. It's like, oh yeah, like, yes, I'm in this Asian healing arts. That's my actual business and career. And to actually connect to that part of you that feels connected to these other healers who are being targeted, right? There is just like a massive connection with us that I just want people to be aware of. And in the sense of not, really standing up or saying anything, that silence, I think, is endemic through a lot of healing communities too. Because I have a Facebook group and it's full of all of intuitive healers, right? Intuitive business owners. And sometimes we feel like it's not my fight, or I don't want to charge the negativity, or I don't know what to say, or I don't want to offend people. Those mechanisms are still mechanisms of separation, of shadow, right? And the reason why I'm saying something is because I feel like there's a lot of empowerment to be had there, a lot of connection and conversations to be had there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and what would you say to this piece that you're mentioning about engaging with it and it becoming sort of it can take over, right? When you say, all right, this is my plight, or I want to start speaking about this. I'm a healer. I maybe don't consider myself political, right? If there's someone like that, like I do that. I have to unplug from politics because my health, I can't handle everything that goes on. So I have to be very choosy about what I engage in. And just that piece around where your attention flows, energy, what is it? Where your intention goes, energy flows. So if we focus on that piece, hi Lily. If we focus there, how do we protect ourselves from getting overly engaged in something and sort of fanning the flame?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like, I'm sure, like, I'm like you, and I have all these like sprays and the oil, and all the just to keep protected. And the thing is, it's really where we choose to focus. So it doesn't need to be a political thing. I'm not making it a political thing, because once you tap into that like collective consciousness of politics, like nothing good is going to come from that, right? So that's why I think it's important to not focus on the stuff that the media is focusing on that you don't want, like, oh, hate crimes, right? Blame and shame. Yeah, we don't need to go there, right? But it's actually finding that space within our heart. And people have, reached out to me and asked, well, what do you want me to share? And I'm like, I don't have a template for you. I don't want to speak what's in your heart, but it's about finding in your heart where that connection is. It's doing that work, and it's all personal growth work, right? Finding your personal connection to what happened, to the people who have been, hurt, right? And it's finding that personal connection. It deepens that for you. It deepens that part of you, and you're not plugging into negativity. So sometimes it's almost like you have to post something and then walk away from it and not look at the comments, right? But it's important that you do find that connection and speak your heart. And it's important that you also notice where your energy is focusing, because people who are posting about this, sometimes they're getting a lot. My friend posted about her experiences as an Asian woman growing up in the Midwest. And then it was like flies to honey. Like, all of these white guys were like, well, I'm white and I experienced racism too. And they kind of made it all about them. And it's very easy to take something and to also feed into the negativity of it, right? And so so I just showed up and I said, hey, it's not like we're attacking you. And of course, racism against anybody is bad, right? Like, I'm not invalidating your experiences, but I just want you to notice how you just turned this conversation and made it about you, right? So there's another layer where it's not reacting, where you can be in this place of love, but also have a lot of self-care during that time, right? Unplug during that time, because that's the reality. Social media sucks our energy. And if you're putting yourself out there, that takes energy. And just know that you don't need to engage or respond in anything that doesn't feel right to you.
So good. I just love your wisdom. You're so tapped in. It's wonderful. The thing that's, just to stay on this for one more shake, it's like, for me, what feels like really resonant is the fact that they are healers, and to go after elderly people. I mean, I know when you're 65, you don't even feel elderly in America. You're like,
I don't
you're
know.
still
I'm 35,
moving it, right? You're moving and
elderly.
shaking. You're like, what business am I going to start? Like, you're engaged in the community. Like, 65 is not what it used to be. But nonetheless, it's like, how sick do you have to be to hurt someone who is an elder, and like our whole culture is built around like this whole like propping up of the youth, where it's like, what about wisdom? It's just, it's really bizarre, and it just seems so broken. But I think that's the thing that's really hitting me, is like, who does that type of thing? Like we're so hurt and wounded after all of this pain. It's like we all need to be healing ourselves. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And also I think it's important for because they were healers and the media is not
yeah,
portraying it as that, right? They're basically saying that indirectly they were like sex workers, which to be honest, I don't know if that's true. I don't think it's true because the victims' families have been coming up and like, that was my mom. You know, she worked all day. She worked for months at a time so that she could, you know, give us a college education, you know, so it seemed like there's a different conversation going on. But as healers, it is important for us to stand for something because healing is a little bit different in different times, right? And so at a time that we're living in now, I feel like it is important to be aware and it is important to have a deeper stance in love, right? A deeper stance in healing, to know what your your people are going through so that you can also embody that in your healing. And that's not going to happen if we are blinding ourselves or just consciously like detaching from the greater conversation. Of course, like don't plug in and get all the negativity, right? But I think it's a point of responsibility, you know, to plug in and to bring love to a situation. And in my experience, when you do bring love, yes, it can take some energy, but it fuels you in a different way in return. So I've only really been very vocal for a few days. And yes, I'm a little tired, but to be honest, it's just like awaken this other part of me that plugs into this other part of abundance, right? Because that's what love is, right? And before, where there was disconnection, now there's a lot of connection. And so I feel like that's part of the work that can awaken in people when they take this journey to really finding in their heart what that connection is, right? With what's happening,
yeah,
with the events, with the stuff that's happening against Asians and kind of against the culture in a way, right? And what that means to you. And can you say something about it, right? Something that you truly believe in. Because if anything, that just opens up more channels of love and abundance for you and connection.
right, right. And helps us work across difference rather than focusing on the differences. You know, we can really say, I mean, we know that they're there and we can celebrate them, discuss them, but being able to say, okay, what's going on with this person and how can I help them? Yeah, it's really beautiful. I'm curious what your personal practice is to sort of wring out what you have to go through, and you're holding space for other people, and now you're, you know, kind of stepping forward in this larger conversation. What will you be doing to care for yourself?
Oh, that's a great question, Megan, because sometimes I think, how do people live in the world without self-care? Because it's so necessary, right? And I see you have those beautiful plants in the back. And I learned this mantra from Peggy Black, who's one of my mentors, and it's a beautiful mantra and it's very healing. And it's like, I can feel it instantly. And basically it goes, any energy that does not belong to me, I send back to source, blessed and transformed. Take a breath. And I can actually feel you, like it just
Mm,
feels like your energy just kind of gets lighter. And then the next part is all of my energy I call back to me, blessed and transformed.
mm,
And you take a breath. And then I've also found that, so that say that anytime, and that makes a huge difference because we don't collect all of that energy. Remember when you and I were at that retreat and then we put all those blankets on top of you?
oh God, do not share that photo.
It's the best photo of all time. And so you see like Megan and then you see all these blankets on top of her. And that's what our energy field is like, you know?
Oh my goodness.
But that
That
was
was
like when we were young.
so funny. That was so funny. And then we won't name anyone's name, but the post went out and I was like, take that down immediately. I'm like, oh my God, it was so bad. I could feel the weight, not just the physical weight, of course. So basically you did some really great. It was like a wellness weekend that we did in New Hampshire. I think it was in New Hampshire. And Anna had everyone grab a blanket and put in what was weighing them down, what was worry. I think it was worry was the
Yeah,
was
worry,
what
yeah.
brought that together. And And then they're like, who's going to hold all these blankets? Of course, it ends up being me. And I'm standing there and everyone's blankets are on me. So now I'm like 7 feet bigger, only it's just little old me. And you can't even like see my head. I look like a monster and I
Yeah.
can feel the energetic weight as well.
Yes. And I think, I don't remember if we picked you or you volunteered, probably some combination of the both, but it's because also you were like the most bubbly one, right? You're the one who's like, yes. And then, but after like each layer of worry, you become this different person, right? You're still you, but you can't really truly be in your genius, right? Which is a lot of what I talked about. So yeah, you have to do the energy healing, go see an energy healer, right? Megan does some amazing work. Cut the cords. Cords are a lot more important than we give them credit for, I guess. So cut the cords.
Yeah, I'll just cut my cords when if I feel that I need to. And basically what that is, for those of you who are like, what is cut the cord? And I want to hear how you would describe it too, because I don't have any formal training in cutting cords. I've done a lot of it. Like, you're in it and you're cutting them, and it's very visceral. So you can have like an energetic, almost like a string or a pipe of energy connecting you to something or someone. Okay, go lay down, Lily. And it's sucking your vital energy from you, right? And it can be something in the past, something in the future. It doesn't matter when, time doesn't matter. And you literally have the power. And I've done it with the sword, which was really cool. You take a sword, and that's usually what I do with my clients, is I see it as a sword.
Yeah.
And I just slice them all. And I won't get too, because I have some pretty gross stories about it. Like, but yeah, it's amazing that you can feel your energy body, and then I seal any holes in the energy body. How would you describe it, Anna?
Yeah, very similar. And like, I feel like the implement comes to you. So I've had clients, my client Allison Scamell, she says, like, when you're ready, when you feel the cord, you'll like a crystal will come, right? Like, you'll just sense it, and then you can use that to cut the cord. But I was also cutting mine with swords and stuff. And sometimes if I can really feel that it's a particular person, and it can just be someone that I know from the past, or it can be someone in my life right now, it can be a family member, right? And I want to say this, like, for you to cut the cord of a family member, or, you know, your partner or whatever, it's not a bad thing. It's a really, really good thing, because they get their energy back and you get your energy back. And so I do that on the regular. I do that like in bed when I'm like, oh crap, I gotta cut the cord, you know, so I can sleep better. And you just do it, you know, just do it, try it.
Right. And it's not bad energy that you're putting out between you and that person. You're just taking your energy back, because we don't realize we invest in worrying or overthinking, and that creates a drain of our energy. So I love that. Yeah,
because I used to like get random worries about having kids, right? And I'm like in my 30s, right? I know if I want to have kids, I need to have kids too. But I was like, we're obsessing about it, and I'm like, this is not my energy. And then I'm like, oh, it's my parents' energy. Cut the cord. So if you are worrying about someone, just know that you're sending that worry to them. So why not just send them love, right? So whenever, you know, Justin rides motorcycles, whenever he's out on a motorcycle, I'm not like worried about, I'm like, oh, he's going to have a great ride. He's going to be protected. He's going to have a great ride. He's going to come back happy, right? That's the energy I want to send to him. Not like, oh, what's going to happen to all the drivers? And I just saw a motorcycle accident. You don't, guys, you don't want to be worried. You don't want to send people that you love worry. Okay. Train yourself to send them love and protection. Right?
That is so, oh my gosh. So that little nugget right there is what I'm going to use if I can have time to edit this down, which I may not. I'm not promising anything. I am a projector as well. But we're both projectors in human design, which is like, work is like, yeah, I'd rather do this sort of stuff all day, but someone has to edit. But yeah, that is so beautiful. We have to match our energy to what it is, the outcomes that we want, rather than investing in what would be our lower vibration. Like, oh, I'm worried, or I'm used to worrying. It feels safe to do what we did, and rather than go, okay, that actually can have some sort of effect, and hopefully not an effect when it's like that. But I wanted to
No, I was just gonna say, worry and complaining. If you want to wonder why any part of your life sucks, it's because worry and complaining, right? Especially about your relationship. And if you don't do that, and it's a struggle sometimes, right? It's an active working through it, but it's the most important work, in my opinion. And that's what I also, that's a process I also use towards this, right? To talking about hate crimes, because that's a very difficult topic. Oh, mass shootings, racially motivated shootings. So that's a really difficult topic, but it's the same principles, right? Coming from love and not projecting worry, not energizing that, really speaking into the world that I want to live in. That's the work.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, I'd love to let our listeners and our viewers understand a little bit about the process you take your clients through. And I know you talk about it a little bit in the book, and it really is a deep dive into your shadow and facing your shadow as a point of magic making, which is how you relate it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, that's a great point, Megan, because our shadows, so the parts of us that are unconscious, all of that yummy, like, I'm not good enough, shame, fear, can I achieve this? What will people think if I say this or do this? That is actually what's controlling most of our lives. And I know for you and me, we're connected to a lot of business owners. That's what's controlling most of our business. How do I know this? People who read the book were like, Anna, I just didn't realize, because there are exercises in the book, right? I just didn't realize how much of my business is controlled by my own shadows. And that's the same with this movement, right? Around really taking care of each other, this movement around healers stepping up and connecting to the bigger conversation, and maybe, advocating and supporting Asians, right? And Asian lives. So the reason why we don't say it, and I'm saying this about Asian communities too, like, I'm not giving them a break. The reason why people don't say this, and I'm learning, right, as I'm going through this, is we have all these shadows of, what if I speak up and it's weird and I get judged, right? What if I speak up and no one cares? What if I say something and it offends someone, or my voice isn't important, or I have other things to do? So many people are not connected to their feelings now, and so they're like, I don't care about this. I'm searching my soul, but it's not my thing and whatever. But I can feel, right, Megan, just like you can feel with people sometimes, you can feel that there's like a rawness there that they're just not ready to connect with, which is fine. So the shadow, if we can identify with the fear that's stopping us, that's the same fear that, yes, is keeping us back from really pursuing our dreams and living our dream life. It's also the fear that holds our audience, our clients, our customers back. So if we can move one step into our own fear, right, whether it be fear of judgment, fear of being seen, fear of success, if we can take one step into that, just feeling it, right, that's one step towards the healing that we allow for our customers and our clients and our humans, right? And so every time we move deeper into our own fear, not only do we get more success in terms of we're growing, so we're showing up a little bit more, right? We're also getting another layer of success in terms of what we can help our people with. And so from a marketing perspective, because I know Megan has this like amazing marketing gift. I mean, knowing your fear and knowing people's fear and what they're struggling with, that is the biggest entry point, right, to connecting with people. And yeah, I know people's biggest fear, and I know their resistance and why they wouldn't share their support for Asian lives, probably the same reason why they didn't share their support for other movements, right? Or maybe they did, and now they're like, I've done my part, whatever it is. So like knowing the fear, being comfortable in fear, you realize how much fear is a gift. And I also realized how often like corporations and other folks who maybe don't have as much integrity, they manipulate your fear, right? We talked about politics, right? Like it's all about manipulating your fear. But when you have control over your fear, or when at least you're aware of it, you know how to not have it manipulated, right? You know yourself more. Knowing yourself more only has benefits, basically. And so moving into your shadow, you can use that to empower your messaging, your marketing, your clients, your business, right? Your life.
Yeah, it's really great. Yeah. So in the emotions, so within body talk, which we do lean on traditional Chinese medicine and the meridians and all these different techniques. So the emotion of fear, if you were to peel it back, is actually a lifesaver. So it's in place for a good reason. If you have no fear on the opposite spectrum, then you might walk off a bridge, or you'll crash a car, or you'll make silly mistakes. So it's not about not having any fear at all. It's like what you're saying is like exploring these places where usually what we do is avoid and push them away and suppress how we feel, because we don't have the techniques to actually let this stuff bubble up and go, you know what, I feel really ugly, and I feel like I feel hatred, or I feel anger, or I don't know what to do in this space. And I just think that that's going to change. I really see that as something that we're now learning, this whole mental health crisis that we're in America. We're all learning how to deal with trauma. A lot of us, like folks like you and I, we've been through a lot of stuff, and we've been helping other people get through stuff for a long time. And a lot of people, this is their first time really dealing with heavy duty stuff. But this, where we're all doing it together now, and mental health is much more accessible. Well, it's hard to find a therapist, but it's not as hard to find a healer. I think that, yeah, it's really, so I taught survival skills, or I facilitated and held space for a
That's right.
survival skills class
Yeah.
on Sunday, and fear kept coming up, because it really is the number one survival skill. If you get lost in your fear and you're out in the woods and you don't know, you've lost your pickup location, or you're all of a sudden you find yourself alone or hungry or cold, the worst thing you can do is get lost in fear. So you recognize, so Matt, the teacher was like, so it was so cool, because I kept thinking about the Chinese medicine and the emotions. And he's talking about like what happens when you're out there. And he's like, you have to recognize that you are afraid, and look beneath it and see what act or task you should do to move away from fear. So if it's like, I don't know where water is, okay, cool, but it's dark, I'm going to come up with a plan to go get water tomorrow morning, and I'll make that my first thing. And then logically you can say, okay, I'm cool, I have this under control. So fear is there as a mechanism of safety, but not to be lost in. Otherwise you make a lot of mistakes.
Oh yeah. And like if we think about the fear that's like literally here, right? Like the whole world is just in this constant place of fear. And I did this talk yesterday for a group of randomly musicians in Germany, and their industry has been decimated, right? From COVID. They can't do any performances, or like stuck at home, and they were in such a fear state. Like you could feel it. And I was like, ladies, and they're all women, ladies, do you realize that during a time, whenever there's been a crisis or a pandemic afterwards, right? Well, during, it creates a lot of innovation. And then afterwards, there's always a big boom in the economy, right? In people wanting to participate in what you do, in a desire for it. And you could just feel like they're just like, oh, okay, I don't have to be constantly in fear. Constantly, because all of my colleagues and friends in industry are constantly in fear. And so you're so right, Megan. A lot of us, I think, are in a survival space and we don't even know it. Even those of us who've, done a lot of work, I'm always surprised sometimes by how easily I'm like in fear mode now, right? Just because that's what's around the world going on. Right. And so more important than ever is the healing work and the self-care. And cut the cords.
So I'd love to read a little section from your book.
Oh my gosh.
And then maybe we can discuss it. I don't want to give away too much, but yeah. I want to read just like the beginning of one section, and then maybe just peek at the integration, some of the questions, because I love the interactivity of the book, where folks are learning about such a deep lesson, and then you inquire within and you ask yourself the questions, and it becomes very tangible.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so page 99, how to distinguish the voice of the saboteur. Do I say saboteur correctly?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. I took 4 years of French, but that means nothing. I'm from Quincy. It is difficult to detect the voice of the saboteur from our own voice, in part because the saboteur is part of us and pulls from our cellular memory to viscerally bring us back to a place where our unresolved shadows live. However, there is a distinct quality to the saboteur. Her presence makes you feel tight and restricted, and sometimes even trapped. There's a general sense of overwhelm, guilt, and feeling like there are no other options or possibilities other than reactive, fear-based ones. You may start thinking, I better do this, otherwise I'll never be successful, or if I don't have dinner with my mom every Sunday, she'll be angry at me. Frequently, it can even sound reasonable, like I need to have more training in order to get more clients. If only I were a better speaker, then I would be more successful. If I don't make more money, my friends will leave me, etc. She usually speaks in extremes and is very black and white. I'll never lose weight. I'm not cut out for any of this. If I don't market myself right now, I won't get clients. Everyone is more successful than me. I can't do this perfectly, so it's not worth it. This is my one chance. I'm too old, young for this, etc. Notice when you feel your energy being drained from your system. This is a sense of disempowerment, which is also the hallmark of your saboteur. I need to be young and pretty to attract clients. I came from a poor background, so it's hard for me to be wealthy. English is my second language, and it makes it harder for me to communicate. I've never done this before. My industry is full of women, men, unicorns, and I'm not like them. I think it describes it so well how we create this inner narrative to keep us safe, out of fear, but it's actually holding us back from our potential and our magic.
Oh my gosh, Megan, I've never heard anyone read that book out loud. That's amazing. I wish you read my Audible.
I won't say who it is, but it's a very popular therapist that just launched a book, and the reading is so every sentence, same exact cadence, no life. She read her own book. Every single sentence, no matter how it is, it goes exactly like this. And I was like, I don't care how great the content is. I can't even listen. I was like, I feel like I'm stuck in like, I don't know what. It just wasn't working for me. So anyways, okay, so let's see. I wanted to read something from the integration because I really love, but
Yeah, and I want to say, like, for those of you who, I basically, half the book is free. If you go to annatsui.com/book, I think you can just download half of it for free. So feel free to read it. And I think I'm going to do a thing with Megan where she just reads to me in the future because this is very nice.
Oh, I love that. So just a little, again, I don't want to give away too much, but I love this. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself to heal and create an integration process around your saboteur or your shadow. So what feeds your creativity and inspiration that you want to do more of? What makes your soul sing? What nourishes your body? What gives you energy? Who haven't you said I love to recently, but you want to? What are some things that you are scared to admit publicly? And I think this is just such a perfectly timed moment in life to read this book and to connect with Anna. And I want to just hear from you if there's anything that you would share about how you work with your clients and yeah, these transformations that you're creating. You're doing really fabulous work with people.
That's a lovely question, Megan. Thank you. I actually didn't, to be honest with you, I'm learning something now. I really didn't click with the book and some of the contents is exactly what's going on right now on a truly massive global scale, right? So that's really powerful. So for those of us who are healers, who are awakeners, who are shadow workers, right? This is really your time to rise. And I almost take it as a personal responsibility at this point, because I do want to live in a world that feels good to me. And I do want to live in a world where people at least know the tools and know when they're coming from scarcity versus when they're coming from love. That's all that's it. That's all the world I want to live in, is when people can tap into love versus scarcity. And when I work with people, I do a lot of work right now around uncovering their personal genius. So it's basically allowing people to feel, like truly feel their genius, the personality of their soul, the natural way that they see and show up and behave in the world before all the blankets, right? Before all the expectations and all the stuff. And then what I see happen is, because they're so clear, our genius is a very clear place. Like imagine you're just a newborn baby, just like clear. In that space, you're naturally plugged into abundance. You're naturally plugged into your life mission. You're naturally plugged into your ideal audience. And so for me, that's actually all energy work, right? And you bring the person and their mind and their heart and their embodiment along for the ride. And then when they can just be in their genius, that's when their life really, really becomes truly their life and fulfilling. So I'm open to anyone who has questions about that. You know, you guys can find me through my website or on social media. I'm on Facebook doing rants all the time. And sometimes I try and go on Instagram and do some rants. So, and I thank you, Megan, for bringing me on your podcast to also do my rant.
I love your rants. Rants are really great and they're poetic as well. So what is the name of your Facebook group?
It is called the Intuitive Business School. So I think you just look it up. the Intuitive Business School, and then you can just request to be let in.
Okay, great. And what's the spelling of your website?
It's, oh, good point. It's ANNAT as in Tom, S as in Sam, U as in umbrella, I as in igloo.com. And if you do annatsui.com/book, that's when you can get some chapters, free chapters of the book.
Nice. I love it. And one more question. Who are your favorite people to work with?
Oh my gosh, my favorite people to work with are people who they have a lot of heart and integrity. Their soul is literally obsessed with helping people in some way. So, how can I learn so that I can share with others, right? How can I help others? How can I create a business where I help others? How can I get this job or be in this career where I have a more direct impact on others, right? And so I love working with those people because there's just so much set up for their success. And if they feel like, I know I have more power inside me, but I just can't see it. And I've been trying to see it, but I can't see it yet. So those are the folks that I love working with.
I love it. Yay,
Yeah, great
Anna.
questions.
Thank you so much. The wonderful Anna Tsui. I'm so honored to have you. And we will be sharing this about. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Please feel free to comment, share this with others, because I think the potential to transform is massive right now. And we're all looking for ways to do that. So please reach out to Anna and I for any help on this path that you're on. And it is a beautiful one, and it is made just for you. So take this all to heart, eat it up, dance in it, and stay light and let your heart play. Let yourself have fun every day.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for having me, Megan. Oh my gosh, this is just such a special space.
Yay, so fun.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.